photographs that I sent you of this overall composition may not correspond with your point of view of your normal easel, and that's okay. We'll just switch easels. So those of you who come in on Wednesday, you're going to have to find the easel that corresponds with the photograph that I sent you. Those of you who are here today will just take a picture of the point of view that you're drawing from, okay? So it'll just be different for you guys than the guys online. All right, so what we're trying to do is fit everything that we see on the page without going off. So obviously, you know, I've zoomed in pretty close to this particular image, and it's pretty obvious that it's a wider than it is a tall silhouette, right? So it's a rectangle that's horizontal, not a rectangle that's vertical. Your point of view will probably be a vertical. Anybody over on the other side of the room will probably have a vertical. Most of you will have horizontal views. It just depends on where you're sitting. So, you know, the first thing that I would say about this is that it's a horizontal format in its constellation of shape. So I would want to turn my page on its side. Now, the next thing that I might determine, I'm going to, because I think my drawn format, which is here, is a little bit too tall relative to the height and width of the photograph that I'm working from. All right, so, you know, you have some choices here. You could do one of two things. You can either draw the bottles and the objects that are, you know, towards the edges of the composition, or you can start with the largest object, keeping in mind that proper placement of that largest object, proper size scaling of that proper object, proper scale, will leave you room to draw the other things. I think I'm going to start with the bottles at the extreme and kind of work my way towards the center. Just because that's different than the way most people work. Most people start from the center and work their way out. But as we've seen, when we start working from the center and work our way out, we start to have issues with size, placement, location, right? Placement and location are the same. So I just made a redundant statement. Sorry. All right. So when I'm looking at this, I'm kind of thinking about how, you know, there's this kind of relationship between those bottles on the side and the bottle that's at the top, or the cylinder that's at the top and the cylinder that is at the extreme bottom. Does that make sense? Why is that important? Well, because I want to leave room at the top and the bottom of this, and I want to leave room at the top and the bottom of this in order to have enough height to triangulate the top of that, and in order to have enough depth down at the bottom, or length down at the bottom, to triangulate off of that shape. Does that make sense to everybody? So again, you know, this is about being considerate and thinking a couple steps ahead, okay? So I know that if I get kind of close to the edges with the center lines of those two bottles, and I make sure that I have some distance from the top there. This cone looks a little bit shorter than the bottle. And some distance from the top and the bottom there, that I'm going to have room. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's really important that you make that consideration. I'm going to move this over just a little bit because I noticed it's a little bit close to the side of the page. Move this up a little bit. All right. It looks to me like the bottoms are kind of lined up with one another. The top is above there. So I'm going to start to just very simply and in a very raw fashion get a kind of ghost of my shapes there. That's really all I need, right, to kind of occupy that space, okay? Now I know that this box touches that bottle around the center of, or I should say the top of my cylinder, etc., right? And I've got an angle that I would find that looks something like this. And I'm noticing that there's a relationship there that I need to have between it and the box. Now I'm going to switch back and I'm going to draw my vertical line there. That's that vertical line. And I know that the top of it comes above that curve right there. All right, so again, I'm scanning vertically and I'm scanning horizontally relative to the shape that's next to it. Does that make sense? All right, now I've got an angle here going up, so I want to make sure that that front angle goes up at the correct angle. Okay, does that look pretty good? Yep. And I know that the bottom corner is going to be about right there. And then I'm going to make something wrong and then gradually bring it up. So we're getting a pretty good box shape now, right? But notice that I haven't made anything overly definitive in the bottles yet. I'm still kind of tentative with them. But I'm trying to, navigate things so that everything will fit. So I'm trying to be purposefully loose. Now there's a bunch of business back here that's in the way of my back corner. So I'm going to ignore that. I'm also going to ignore this. As long as I get the right angle by measuring with my pencil, I should be in good shape. So measuring, 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 measuring. That looks pretty good as far as the top of the box is concerned. So I know where the back corner is now, even though I can't see it. Okay, so now where is the center line of this oatmeal can? Well, it's to the left of that front corner, somewhere maybe about right there. Maybe? Yeah. So then I draw a center line up. Where is the top of it? Well, I can triangulate like that, and I know where the top of the container is. And then I can kind of gesture out to see if I've got the right height and width. Does that look right? Maybe a little bit skinny, so I'm going to come out a little bit more. Very thin ellipse at the top, like that, right? You following me? Everybody online following me?
Yes.
Kayla,
Yes.
you got, yeah, look at all that, yeah. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a little bit more definitiveness on my cone. It seems a little short and squat, so I'm gonna pull it up a little bit. Does that look better? And if that's true, I need to move this up just a tad. Oh, wow, that's a really thick, cool line. So you can see I'm kind of negotiating up and down, growing things a little bit lower, a little bit higher as I start to get my still life. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Now I can see that the line of center on this front bottle is to the left of the left side of my oatmeal container. I can see that the bottom is below That front corner. Woo, close. So I know that that's the bottom of my beer bottle there. I can see that the top of my cylinder is about right there relative. So that horizontal scanning helps me to determine where the cylinder ends, right? Again, I'm not getting into all the finery of things at this point. I'm just trying to get my basic shapes. My ball is very small relative to my cone, and it sits right there on the corner. Now, if I look at this shape back here, I can see that we've got the top and the bottom of that shape relating to my oatmeal. So again, I'm scanning horizontally. So it's probably about right here and about right there. Does everybody see that? Then where's this? Well, we can triangulate. So it's going to be over in that zone, about right there. Oops. Right? And then we know that it's an elliptical shape. So we have a curve there, right? Does that make sense to everybody? And then the top of it is just above the center. You understand? And then we've got the center line of this bottle. And half of it, well, not half of it, maybe a third of it goes behind our oatmeal container. Does that make sense to everybody? So you guys online, do you understand what we're doing here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I want you to do is do this, but I want you to keep your pencil marks about that light. Does that make sense? Because what we'll do is we'll come in on Wednesday, or we'll be at home on Wednesday, and we'll start to layer corrections, because I can see some stuff that's slightly off in my drawing, specifically that little bottle towards the back. And I think that's because I made the top of this too, I think it's because I made the top of this too big, which is going to enable me to have a taller bottle back there.